Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahus samad, lam yalid, walam yulad, walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Sadaqallahul Azim. My name is Muhammad Azfar and I am founder of Nutshell Conferences and Corporate Pakistan Group. And on behalf of Nutshell and Corporate Pakistan Group, I am grateful to all the participants, virtual participants who are attending today's session. This is exclusive conversation with the Group Director and CEO of Beximco, Bangladesh, Syed Naved Husain. He is here with us. Thank you, sir, for your presence with us today for 70 minutes conversation. Corporate Pakistan Group is actually the virtual group, and this is Pakistan's national intelligentsia with 255 members, corporate and business leaders, government ministers, senators, federal secretaries, and also the energy experts, IT experts, academia, media celebrities, and foreign policy experts, police officials, and also our armed forces individuals serving and retired officers both. So we are operating in Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, and Dubai. Since starting of lockdown since March, we are hosting the virtual sessions on different issues. And earlier we were hosting monthly meetings, dinners, get-togethers, dialogues in Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, and Dubai. Yesterday we hosted, the Corporate Pakistan Group hosted the dialogue on federal budget of Pakistan and Pakistan's economy. And our panelists were the finance minister, the finance advisor of Pakistan, Dr. Abdul Hafiz Sher. We also hosted our 4 CPG members, the former finance minister, Dr. Miftah Ismail, the former finance minister and governor, State Bank of Pakistan, Dr. Shamshad Akhtar, the CEO of Pakistan Business Council, Ahsan Malik, and managing director of Pakistan Stock Exchange, Farooq Khan. While our moderator was Zulfikar Khan, who is the partner of PwC in Pakistan, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and Asim Siddiqui, country managing partner of EY for Rhodes, Ernst & Young, also shared his views. So this was well attended. Around 11,000, over 11,000 participants from Pakistan and other countries attended this 90 minutes dialogue. And today, back to back, is our second session. This is actually from Nutshell, but Nutshell is part of Corporate Pakistan Group. We are facilitating Corporate Pakistan Group from our side with 255 members, and they all are volunteers and they are working and collaborating for different causes. For example, when the lockdown started, I want to share the details because a large number of audience from Bangladesh is also attending right now from Facebook Live. So Corporate Pakistan Group initiated, the fundraising to support the needy families for the ration distribution, for the food distribution, and within 2 days' time, without any single rupee cash transaction, we managed 21 million Pakistani rupees and distributed the food and stuff for next 2 weeks through 3 credible organizations, Ahuwat, Baitul Salam, and Orange Tree Foundation. And recently, we also initiated a project under the able leadership of our member Harun Qasim, who is also a pharmaceutical person, former leader in Pakistan, former chairman of Pakistan Pharmaceutical Manufacturer Association. We actually decided to collaborate with a local organization here in Pakistan, and we are establishing a viral diseases laboratory, the top class laboratory. So we generated around 27.5 million Pakistani rupees for this project. And hopefully in next 1 week, this will be inaugurated in Karachi. And this will serve to millions of people in Karachi in affordable prices. So these are the activities in addition to dinners and dialogues. Our members are contributing as their social responsibility. All of them are the best minds, the best intellectuals in Pakistan. And some of our overseas Pakistanis are also members from Canada, US, UK, and UAE, and other countries. So this was the introduction of Corporate Pakistan Group. Our today's moderator, I want to share this story because one of our founding members is Amina Syed. She's known for literary festivals in Pakistan. She is the founder of Karachi Literature Festival, and now she is hosting other festival since last 2 years, and this is a success. And Amina introduced me to Syed Naved Husain. And the world is very small, because when we were looking for a specific, medicine, the injection from Bangladesh, we came to know that Syed Naved Husain is the real brother of Amina. So the world is small. She connected me, and now Naved Husain is a dear family member. He's a brother to me, and we talked so many times in last meeting. And he supported us for few, matters to arrange the injections for the needy patients here in Pakistan, and he is continuing the support through the government of Pakistan. So Amina is here also. Amina is live. Thank you, Amina, for the introduction. When I decided to host Naved for this conversation, because when I discussed with him, I thought that this is a very interesting story, especially with the Pakistani business houses and for the Pakistani audience, because he is actually Pakistani, based in Bangladesh since 1994, and leading the largest business house of Bangladesh. So one person came in my mind. She's our founding member and the managing committee member. And I always shared with my friends that she's one of the assets for Pakistan. My friend, my family, Ayla Majid. She's the Global Council member of ACCA, and she is also the Young Global Leader for World Economic Forum. She's also the member of the Global Council for Energy of World Economic Forum, and she is Managing Director of Khalid Majid Hussain Chartered Accountants. So we are colleagues in Corporate Pakistan Group also, and we were colleagues in National Defense University, Islamabad also. So without any further delay, I am starting the program. She's our today's moderator. Naved Husain actually is the Pakistani entrepreneur and global investor, industrialist, and industrial product developer designer. He is the CEO and group director of Bangladesh's largest business house with 70,000 employees and USD 2 billion revenue. Beximco's interests span from textiles, apparel, retail, pharmaceuticals, PPE, ceramics, media, energy, and banking. He was born in Karachi and received his school at Karachi Grammar School, a very famous school in Karachi since last few decades. He later moved to the USA, where he completed his engineering and MBA and worked for several years in the Silicon Valley. He has also spent several years in the oil industry in Abu Dhabi. Now, I am handing over the further proceedings to Ayla Majid for the conversation with Naved Husain. Thank you again, Ayla. Thank you again, Naved, and thank you to all the participants.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Azfar, thank you for the kind introduction and giving me the opportunity to moderate and host this session with you. And here to learn from Naved about his journey, about his, the session is leadership in adversity. We all understand that the times that we are in, they are quite uncertain. Nobody knows that what is the right answer. The decisions that we are taking, whether they are absolutely right, but nevertheless, we need to stay active, we need to respond to situations, and we need to take the decisions to the best of our judgment. I think something that you mentioned and hearing about Naved Saab's profile as well, I think at the end of the day, we all are really global citizens, and we have sort of there are dots that are connected, and that's the beauty of how we can any initiative that we take and how we can sort of maximize our efforts for of course the good of what we are doing and of the good for the global humanity as well. And I think that is the spirit with which we see that a lot of work is being done by our worthy speaker as well in supporting causes that where Pakistan needed a lot of immediate help. And the colleagues who have joined here in this group, of course, they are a part of Corporate Pakistan group. They are leaders on their own domains. And the idea is to share and learn from each other. So here we are to learn from you and to understand your experience throughout your life journey. And of course, if you would like to share with us any specific areas. So to begin with, I would like to ask you that, I mean, there are all sorts of leaders in the world, and all sorts of very dynamic, very inspirational leaders as well. And I like to use, for some people, very interesting leaders as well, who we fail to understand as well. So the world is kind of polarized as well. There's a little bit of trust deficit as well. So in times like these, it becomes even more important to understand really what are the fundamentals we would like to sort of get back to the core and hear it from somebody who's done very well. So over to you, Naved Saab, and would like to hear from you as to how your leadership journey has been.
Thank you very much. And, I'm here sitting in my house in Dhaka, and it's wonderful to be connecting with people in Pakistan, where I grew up, a country, which I love, where my parents are buried. So, and I must say that I love Bangladesh. I love the people. The people of both countries are fantastic people. They have immense generosity, hardworking, and it's my privilege to be sort of have a equal foot in both places. As far as global borders are concerned, and what do you call it, nationalism, I don't believe in it. If I had my way, then it's God's earth. There should be no visas, and people should be free. But unfortunately, jokers like me don't have their way. I must confess that Ayla and I have done a deal that, I promised to shave and put on a coat if she was not going to ask me any hard questions. So that's between me and Ayla. She'll keep it simple so that I don't stumble. But coming to the topic, I feel very, very privileged connecting with Pakistan at this time, sitting in Bangladesh, the two homes of mine. And this period sort of reminds me both, the difficulties that we are going through, and also, it's a tale of two countries or a tale of two cities, which Charles Dickens sort of wrote a long time back, and it seems to be very relevant now. So, I remember what he wrote was, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epic of belief. It was the epic of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way, which was hell. So I think that, so we are talking about Bangladesh and Pakistan and Dhaka and Karachi at a time when we have this COVID-19 threat. So there are great similarities in the period. Coming to my journey, my journey has been fairly simple, in the sense that I didn't have any big aspirations, and I was quite happy just getting on with life. And that sort of continues. So I don't think, I've grown up. My wife keeps reminding me. She says that it's time you grow up. But I think, that's also been part of helping me. That when you don't grow up, then you do things which, as a grown-up, you wouldn't do. And what are those things? That you take a lot of risks. And you take them not so much to make money, but to have fun. So what do I do as a chief executive? What does a chief executive do? So I try to figure out, they ask me, what's your job description? So I've been trying to figure out what is my job description. So first thing which I try to do is this is when, when you don't have adverse situation or a crisis like we are in, and things are quite normal. So, what I try to do is to make myself aware and try to figure out that not chase the ball, but where the ball will go. So that's sort of providing a vision. And to do that, you need to really take some time and travel, understand the world. Most importantly, meet people in different parts. So not think inwards, think outwards, because it is a global world. The minute you start thinking inwards, then you've lost. Once you've got that, the next most important thing is to get the right talent on the bus, particularly if you're slightly lazy like I am. So you work very hard to hire good people. And once you have the right people on meritocracy, doesn't matter where they come from. If I'm, God forbid, having a heart attack and I'm in bed and a doctor comes, I won't ask him who your father was, where you were born, what your religion is. I'd rather know that does this guy know his surgery. So that's the principle I followed in getting the right talent onto the bus. What does that do? That if you hire hard, then you manage easy. So most of the time, I sit at my table. Once the business is running, then I have the luxury of sitting on a table which is quite empty. And then, when people say that, what's your job description? Sometimes I say yes, and sometimes I say no. Because your yes and no can actually make and break the company. So once you've set the vision, you've put the right people on the bus with no compromise. Then you say yes and no, and the big, strong emphasis should be on execution. So as I was mentioning earlier to someone that a slogan which has appealed to me tremendously is Nike's "Just Do It." So don't keep talking and analyzing till the cows come home. Do it. So I'm very, so I say yes and no, and I really, really chase that. Once we've agreed to something, can we meet the timelines and complete it as of yesterday? So those are the simple fundamentals. They do take up, I work hard. And I work hard because I love it. So there is a passion, and when you have a passion to do things, to build things, and you really enjoy it, what happens is that there are 40,000 people who get energized. So that's the most important, I think, aspect of a leader. That how does he take large groups of people and energize them? And that does take time. So sometimes people ask me that, what will you do after you retire? So my first thing is I won't retire, but when I do retire, I'll introduce myself to my wife and my kids. Saying that, I mean, we do remain connected. Now, so those are the normal things, as part of my journey of building organizations and running organizations. As I said, that enjoy it, be passionate, put the right people on, the bus, and energize the team. If you can do that, then you'll be successful. Your next question, I think, what it related to leadership and adversity. Yeah, go ahead, Ayla.
Yes, I was going to ask you, your group, Beximco, it is quite diverse, and I was going through some of the recent work that you are undertaking. Of course, one is in sort of scaling your pharmaceutical business, providing the much needed medicine, and also venturing, of course, into the manufacturing of pieces as well. And so I see that your style in responding to leadership in a rather uncertain situation. So the next thing that I would like to touch upon is about leadership in adversity in uncertain times, when the behaviors of everyone is so changing and when the dynamics are so fluid. So what has kept you, and what has proven really right? And this is one of the situations that we are undergoing now. So I would like to hear from you your perspective in dealing with a situation like these, and perhaps if you could also share what got you ready for this, and if there was similar, or perhaps of not a similar quantum, but where there was really a sort of response needed in a very uncertain time, and how you reacted to it.
Okay, thank you. I think what's very interesting is that when you come to leadership, one is the leadership in normal times, which we spoke about. When you talk about leadership in adversity, everything changes 100%. Okay, so in leadership in modern times, I mean, everyone reads books, and everyone would know about data analytics and how decisions are taken. You get online data and you analyze it, and you have algorithms. All that is shoved into the waste paper basket. And when you have it's like being on a Boeing aircraft and you're told that in 15 minutes it will crash. So you don't sit down and start analyzing, what will happen. You start doing. So in this case, I think what happens is that when a situation like this comes in a COVID-19, so firstly, we must understand, because, it's a pain that I've stopped watching TV, because every time I watch TV, and it doesn't matter which channel, whether it's CNN, BBC, or the Pakistani channels, or the Bangladeshi channels, or the Indian channels, all I see is, how many people dead, what's the data, how many more will die. And, it's a pain, but it is reality. So what the first thing you have to do, and what it's doing is it's scaring the hell out of everyone. So who gets scared? The community gets scared, your family gets scared, your employees get scared. So the first thing which I did was that, there was I think it was FDR, this US president, who said the only thing to fear is fear itself. So for heaven's sake, don't get scared. The second thing is, in times of adversity, I have a role model. And that role model is General Tariq bin Ziyad. Okay, so they decided to conquer Spain. And he showed up with 7,000 soldiers. And then he realized that he had to fight with 100,000, times of adversity. So there were two things he could do was, get scared and surrender and, and get killed, or, fight fear and overcome it, which he did. And provide the leadership. What did he do? He burned the boats. And he told his people that, that you have the ocean behind. So if you run, you drown. And the second thing is that you have the enemy in front. But if you have courage, and I will lead you in the first guy who will die in that battle will be me. So that is leadership. And what happened that the 7,000 conquered the 100,000 and and they ruled Spain for 700 years. So that's a fantastic example of leadership in adversity. Now, so I tried to analyze that, that what are the traits that any leader needs. And I found that, I've broken it into three. One is courage. And the most important trait is courage, 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 whether it's peacetime or it is leadership in adversity. Then there's objectivity. And the third is progressiveness. And the fourth, I might add, in times of adversity, is that a leader, it really helps if you have a sense of humor. Because what you have to do is to basically conquer fear. But not just by words. What we did was that, you have to change your gears. We had a situation where, when you look at the world supply chain, it's like a train. And, many countries get connected. But a very important, the engine of that train are the retail shops in Europe, the retail shops in America, which are the big markets. And so this COVID had two things. One was that people started dying and getting infected. But equally was the thing that, that what do we do with the unemployment, with, clearly the world is going to go into recession. And most importantly, the engine of that train across Europe and, the engine broke down, so the train stopped. How does that affect a country like Bangladesh, that we've got 4.1 million workers? We were doing $34 billion of garment exports. And this year, we will probably be lucky if we achieve 15 billion. So from 4.1 million workers, what do you do with 2 million? I had that worry that, we have 40,000 workers in one industrial park. And we have a very, as I told you, that I've paid a lot of attention and hard work in recruiting the best people, the best talent I could find. And, how do we retain that talent? And how do we ensure that we don't have to fire anyone? Everyone gets paid on time, despite the fact that the engine. So there, in times of adversity, it's very interesting to note that what is a business? So in my view, any business you do, you first find a problem, and then you find a solution to that problem, and you make money, or you succeed. So so when in times of adversity, you have a big problem. So rather than just worrying about it, it actually creates an opportunity. You look at it that, okay. So what we did was that, and when you're an entrepreneur and a businessman, then generally you are trained that problems are the fuel for entrepreneurships. Because where there's a problem, there's solution and there's money to be made. So interestingly, I was looking at some, past periods of, firstly, periods like this, apart from the people dying. In this case, the markets have never seen such declines in over 30 years. There have been worldwide huge layoffs. Whoever I talk to America, he says, I've sent 80 people, 80% of my team is on furlough. And, share prices are collapsing, capital is drying up, and a huge recession is on its way. But then you go and it's very interesting to see that some of the world's leading companies actually were created and grew during periods of recession and periods of adversity. So if you look at General Electric, when was it launched? 1982. Their last year revenue was 95 billion. Okay, so that's in 1983 was a peak period of recession. General Motors, 1908. And again, it was launched at a horrible time of adversity. Disney, again, was launched in 1928. Microsoft, in fact, I was in the States at that time. Bill Gates started thinking about it in 1973. And I remember that 73, I decided to drive from New York to California. And I had gone 200 miles and, the oil embargo came. OPEC did that. So the land of the plenty, suddenly there was no petrol and I had to spend 3 days in a motel in a city with a population of 300. Because, I couldn't get oil. Then they allowed it on the highways. And when I reached California, I still remember, a couple who was planning to get married after a few years actually got married so that they wouldn't have to drive 2 cars. And during this period, Microsoft sort of launched and where it's gone. So these are all entrepreneurs who didn't surrender to recessions. They took the opportunity and they sort of made something out of it. So in our case, so the first thing to fight fear, what we did was that we opened our factory. We said that, the fashion industry is collapsing. The engine is damaged. Where is the opportunity? So the opportunity was, we found that the whole world was short of PPE. And since we had a pharmaceutical industry, which was all FDA approved with the US, and we had all that know-how, and we had South Asia's, one of their largest vertical textile operations. So we combined the know-how. And we said, let's become one of the world's, at least let's not look at it short term. Let's start a PPE division, make some heavy investments in it, and look forward to becoming a world leader in PPE also. And that worked out well because it took off in such a big way that all our people are busy. But to get it going, and there was a lot of people didn't want to come to the factory. So there, a leader in times of adversity must lead from the front, just like Tariq bin Ziyad said that I will be the first to die. So what did I do? I put on my mask and I started attending office in our factory, which is 40 miles away. And then I got my inner circle, and then we actually laid out a plan so that it would not be, we said that 40,000 workers who will come every day, how do we keep them healthy? So, we went to the villages, we sent our teams out to train them, because these were people, who would not be able to understand that this COVID-19 goes through the mouth, nose, and eyes. And, we taught them the importance of this. And then our own engineering team inside the factory, we created the spacing. We arranged everywhere, a protocol of how 40,000 workers would come in, how they would be safe. We set up a hospital with oxygen, with 3 or 4 doctors, that if we did find someone, then, everyone's temperature was being taken, then we would have him tested. And if he proved positive, then we would take him into our own quarantine center. So it was not just words. People started feeling healthy, because we felt it our responsibility that firstly, no one should go hungry in Beximco. Secondly, there should be no layoffs, because we don't follow the American systems of furlough or this. We will do our best, but we learned from them that that those companies started and grew at times of adversity. So why can't we do the same? And that has sort of worked quite well. So what's the lesson from this? That what I've learned and what I'd like to share with you. Number one, lead from the front if you're a leader. Number two, you have to take the fear out of the people that you're leading. Number three, don't get paralyzed by analysis, forget it. Because there is no analysis. Now you have a situation which is new, and every time it will be different. So don't look at the rear view mirror, forget it. Look at the windshield and say, this is my situation now. Where do I go? The next thing is realize that for business, a problem always has an opportunity. So focus on the opportunity. Don't focus only on the problem. Going on from there, so what do you do? You sort of, it'll be and believe me, Corona will go away. So it's not the first time. You've had Spanish flu. I don't know, 65 million people died, and that was not even, it was difficult to travel in those days. You've got SARS, you've got Ebola, and you can Google and count a whole bunch of them. So this is not the first time. They went away, so will this. So what we should really be, apart from just talking about Corona, it'll be tragic if we don't learn and come out from this Corona smarter, better, and with some lessons learned, so that we don't just come out and keep doing the things we did pre-Corona. And so, what I'm saying is that how do you use Corona to grow? And to actually, the people who've got scared, who are downsizing and all that, Corona will go away. Let's say it goes away a little sooner than we anticipated. So they will have disrupted, fractured organizations. Beximco will be ready, because I'm not even stopping our investments. We are just investing another $20 million in a washing plant, and the retail engine is damaged. So we are planning that Corona will go away, and when it goes away, we will take advantage of it.
I think
yeah, one more thing that so you have an advantage that your competition might not you will have less competition at that time. Okay, so that was my thing on the thing. Then going for the future when Corona, sort of goes away, I think there will be a new normal globally. The supply chains will change. Trade where people go buy one thing from China, they buy another thing from Malaysia, and they put it together in Bangladesh. Things will start becoming vertical, and people will want to go to one country, buy everything. We are becoming very good working from home. So analog will start dying and digitalization will become very effective. So we are already, we are using 3D design. We are connected with our global customers. And, where there was business as usual, so a customer would come and place long orders and maintain huge inventories. So when that engine collapsed, they were holding big inventories. So I think that situation will change, where people will want shorter runs, lower levels of inventory. They'll pay higher prices. They'll go to verticals. The verticals will be onshore, nearshore, and offshore. So Americans will look to buy some things which they can buy in America, Europeans in Europe, and looking at that, understanding that, and then they will also come for prices offshore. So Beximco is investing in Detroit, in New York, to manufacture PPE there so that we can be there onshore. We are looking at Ireland and UK. But our big manufacturing will be in Bangladesh. And the situation is changing. So you were asking me about the global perspective. So I call China LIFO, because when I was looking at the numbers, I took one customer and I was looking at their numbers, a big retail customer. So in USA, his sales are down by 65% of 2019 during this period. European Union, they're down by 25%. China, they've gone up by 25%. Asia, they're down by 11%. So China was sort of, China would be called the FIFO. So they're the first one to get it. And also America was the last one to get it. So that's the global trend as far as I see it.
I think one of the very interesting messages that I see, and and a very positive message, and that is that you're very sure about things getting normal, and we all know and we all hope for that things will get normal, and you're not holding your decisions. And I think that is the spirit, and that's the broader message that will be very important for the audience, and also to sort of disseminate at a much larger level. Some of the sort of key traits of leadership in adversity that you mentioned, I would just like to sort of share that what I heard when you were talking, that it's very important to create or have a better perception management. And this is something that you have shared from his historical leadership styles, that you shared some of the examples, and also what you have been doing to create a sense of normalcy. I think those are extremely important, and this is what we need to sort of adhere to. And on a lighter side, I think somebody mentioned that oftentimes analysis, if there's too much analysis, it can lead to paralysis. So paralysis with analysis is something that we should avoid. And I think bringing in a bit of humor, that is extremely important. Some time ago, I had a chance to speak to Christine Lagarde, and I asked her that, being a woman and also sort of being oftentimes a single woman, and sort of in many boardrooms, how does she sort of deal with? And obviously she shared many things, and amongst those, one of the key things that she shared, that use humor to your advantage and to deal with situations. I think that is extremely important. And I really like that, how you're looking at the world sort of behaving in a manner. Obviously, supply chains are disrupted, but now perhaps looking eastwards, there's such a big market in Europe and US. Yes, there will be market, but perhaps a different sort of market. If it's not fashion retail, then it's going to medical supplies and medical related textiles, etc. If I talk about your industry, but also looking at the fact that within the region, we have very limited trade. And also the fact that a lot of countries, including Pakistan, we have been very dependent on our exports to Western world. I think we as a region, we need to look at more eastwards. Half of the world's population, and rather young population, resides in this area. So, I mean, I would like to sort of, moving towards sort of the final part of the discussion, I would like to get your thoughts on how we can really, some of them you've already mentioned, but how we can really unleash the potential in our region. I mean, how can we sort of create more alliances, whether it with regards to creating a healthcare alliance, whether it is a trade alliance. I mean, there's been a lot of criticism in the recent past on the European Union, but we are seeing many other good alliances that are taking place now with regards to their vaccine alliance and many other areas. And these countries, they trade amongst each other. And that has contributed to their survival, and they will of course come up as well. So looking at this particular region, and what is our way forward, and how can we really unleash our potential, would like to hear your thoughts on this.
I want to add one more question with this. This is received from Adnan Rizvi of KPMG. There's a similar question, and he is asking from Naved Husain that do you ever consider expanding into Pakistan by way of setting up an equity or a JV?
The answer is yes. In fact, we are actively looking at it. That this medicine, which we are remdesivir, which we are supplying from here, we are looking at it to actually put up a JV in Pakistan to start manufacturing it. And what we are looking at is that one of the reasons we got involved in Pakistan was that we could see that before someone could actually start manufacturing in Pakistan, we would end up somewhere in August or September. So what would happen to the people who were dying in June, July? And so we said that let's work out a system, because we had sort of seen the writing on the wall, and we had already done the R&D and developed it. And my brothers in Pakistan, I would sort of focus them that they should focus on R&D, because there's so much talent there that they could have done this on their own. There was nothing holding back. But what we are trying to do is, I don't know if it will work, but we are trying to see if we can fly in machines to Pakistan, because the 85% of the raw material comes from China, and so do some of the key machines, which are not available with some of the pharmaceutical factories. So it's something we are working on, and can we charter a plane and fly it and provide the know-how and start manufacturing it? So the answer is yes, we are looking at it, but for the pharmaceuticals, but we are sort of on a global level. I mean, Alia's question, that definitely, we were talking about the global trend right now. So this China was the first country before people realized it's a pandemic. Everyone thought it's an epidemic. And I flew to London to have a meeting in Italy. And when I landed there, we realized it's a pandemic. The meeting was cancelled, and everything, the world changed on that particular day. So, but on the other hand, you have last in, first out. I mean, first in, first out. So China got it. China is out of it. American companies selling in China, their sales have gone up by 20% compared to last year. If we look at the world trade globally, so if the regional trade is very important. If you look at America and NAFTA, 80% of America, Mexico, Canada is intra-trade. If you look at intra-trade of Europe, it's about 50%. If you look at, I think, the ASEAN region, it's also about 50%. You look at SAARC, it's 5%. Now, if SAARC has 5%, that affects everything. So if I have to fly, let's say that, flights are open. To come to Karachi, it would take me 10 hours because I would either end up in Dubai or I would go to Thailand and then come to Karachi or via Sri Lanka. A normal flight, direct flight used to be 3 hours. But it was not just Dhaka to Karachi, Dhaka to Bangalore again became 10 hours because there were no direct flights because there's not enough trade. So if, SAARC could be 20% instead of 5%, just imagine, how the economies would be affected and how the people would benefit. Similarly, definitely, there are new markets emerging. The world is changing, but the way you look at it, that let's say you've saturated a market. Let's say that you're a retailer in America, and America is a very rich country, and you keep opening more stores, and you're getting the footfall in the sales. So you keep opening it there till you become like McDonald's, that there's no more place in America. So you go to a next country and a next country and a next country because there is no growth there. So our growth should be, it should be where it makes commercial sense. But definitely, Asia is changing very, very rapidly, huge opportunities coming up, as is Africa. And in answer to your question, sure, look at the world.
Yeah. So you'd mentioned earlier when we were having a chat that Bangladesh, and something that you mentioned earlier in the conversation as well, Bangladesh exports dipping because of the disruption in supply chain, and a large number of population, so many people are dependent on export related business. So going forward, how do you sort of plan? Obviously the market is of course, there's a huge market eastwards as well. So how best is to approach, and what are some of the key lessons that you would like to share perhaps for some of our Pakistani entrepreneurs as well, that if they were to sort of move ahead and look at capturing this region and of course increase more trade, which can of course be done through collaboration as well. But what are some of the key ingredients that they should be looking at in order to sort of act rather swiftly?
The first thing I think that, what they should look at is that, as I told you, that Bangladesh and Pakistan have very young, dynamic populations. And, with a wonderful history of hard work and so on. I have quite a few Pakistanis working for me. and they've been here since 1994, 1995. And, you know, they're champions at what they do, and so are the Bangladeshis. So you know, some people ask me that what happened that Bangladesh sort of overtook Pakistan. Because it was interesting that if you look at the indicators today, you know, I think, you know, when we split, Pakistan's population was much smaller than Bangladesh. Today, Pakistan has over 200, nearly 212 million people. Bangladesh has 161, so they did a good job at birth control. The GDP per capita, it's unbelievable that Pakistan, it's 1482, Bangladesh has gone to 1698. You know, they're much smaller in size. Pakistan is 5 times larger. It doesn't have cyclones and floods. The GDP growth of Bangladesh has outstripped Pakistan, and it's, apart from after the corona, it's been 8%, 7.8%. Pakistan, I think I was looking at the 2018 figures, has about $12 billion total reserves as of 2018, and Bangladesh at the same time had 32 billion. Life expectancy in Pakistan is 67 years, it's 72 years here. Similarly, you know, female literacy in Pakistan is about 46.49, in Bangladesh it's 70%. And total literacy in Pakistan is 59% and Bangladesh is 73%. So what happened? Now, one of the things which I think really helped Bangladesh with all its problems, and you know, Kissinger in 71 had said that it's a basket case with no bottom. And I think, you know, Bangladesh should now tell him that we've had the last laugh. So what did Bangladesh, I was trying to analyze how did this happen, because Pakistan, you know, is a cotton country. Our primary exports were textiles. And we had cotton. Bangladesh had absolutely zero cotton. They didn't have a culture of textiles. In 71, the complete industry and management here was Pakistani. So they had zero entrepreneurial experience. But starting from there, they've sort of went way ahead. So what are the factors? One is, I think that, you know, what blessed Bangladesh was the fact that they had no cotton. And what that did was that the Koreans came in very long time back. It was actually Desh Garments, and they partnered with him, and he went out and trained around 150 people in Korea, and then a lot of them went off and started their own business. But what they learned to do was to actually produce the end product. So it's like Japan, you know, producing cars where they have no steel. But, you know, they've become good at making cars and they've captured the market. But when you sell steel or you sell a car, it's not just the manufacturing, it's also selling, distribution, you know, the whole chain of, you know, you become more sophisticated at actually the whole line. I mean, someone who sells raw material or intermediates, like Pakistan, I think got too involved in exporting cotton, then making yarn and then gray fabric, and they stopped over there. The second thing which I think really helped Bangladesh was that, so what happened that, which helped was that I think that they had no established business family. So, you know, from the time of the planning, I think, you know, which dates back to Ayub Khan, the idea was that let's build up 22 families and that'll sort of give an impetus to the country moving on. Here, I think since there was no families, so there was nothing to unlearn. It was only things to learn. And what Bangladesh did, which I think was very smart, that then they made capital and working capital easily available without collateral, because to begin with, in the long run, I don't feel that, I mean, as the world goes on, I think banks will become redundant. You don't need them. As currency will become redundant and the world will change. I mean, right now the world is all screwed up. There are 67 families who have as much money as the rest of the world. You have money which is actually paper, not tied to gold. So, anyone can print as much as they want, and that's controlled by a few people sitting there. So amongst all these things, what Bangladesh did was that they weakened their banking structure and they ran into loans, but they made working capital available as well as capital investment, so that Bangladesh ended up with 5,000-6,000 factories producing textiles. And some, the banks had some problems, but when you actually manufacture, what is a bank? It's a middleman. It doesn't have, I mean, a bank today is nothing different than Shylock the Jew. So here and the middleman will disappear. I mean, there was a period when, the Glass-Steagall Act, and I don't know if it was Clinton or Bush who withdrew it, and then all the banks collapsed. So it was an interesting period. I was having a meeting with Inditex, and they told me that, Naved, don't worry, because the letter of credit we are giving you, if the bank disappears, we'll honor it. And so, in the future, what I foresee is that, like stockbrokers and all that, it'll all be overtaken by technology. So what Bangladesh did was they scaled it. So thousands of small guys started producing, and we ended up with $35 billion of $34 billion last year. Similarly, I think, the Bangladesh Prime Minister, I'm not talking politically, but overall, I think, she's been very clear, very decisive, and exactly knew where she wants to go. So where are we today? That, Kissinger's basket case, today there are 128 million people with mobile phones. 90 million are connected to the internet. 10 years back, we had 5,000 megawatts of power. That has jumped up to 20,000 megawatts. Bangladesh has launched its own satellite. It was very difficult, to make international calls. Now they have 2 fiber optic cables connected to Singapore, and so on and so on and so on. The country is 5 times smaller, but you see lots of 5-star hotels coming up, and there's a lot of movement going on. So what should Pakistan do in that case? Scale it and make capital available. Make capital available because you've got fantastic engineers, you've got young people, but you're only going to a few people and giving them money. So you need to scale it so thousands of people start doing lots of things. And think big. How do you think big? I mean, one of the things which I learned was that in South Asia, we think small. Not just in Pakistan, but across South Asia. And I think part of it comes from our, I'm sorry to say, but part of it comes from the fact that that a tea company conquered us. Okay, it should never have happened. Now, So what that does is if you go to jail for a long time and you come out, then you want someone to tell you what to do. But we must realize that we are out of jail. We are masters of our destiny. We are captains of our own future, and start doing it. And trust our people. Go into R&D, make big things. And so my recommendation was that look at China and look at the Texans. Okay. When you text, these two guys, you talk to them, they want to make a road. A Chinese will say, okay, I'll make such a big road. You talk to a Texan and everything he wants to do is the biggest. So let's start thinking big, not just in Bangladesh, not just in Pakistan, but across South Asia. So if we take the cue from Texas, we take the cue from this, we take, stop looking. Let's take, in Pakistan, I remember that from Karachi to frontier, you have gypsum and limestone. So, you can make as much cement as you want. In Bangladesh, we have to get clinker from India because we don't have gypsum and limestone. Similarly, how you have mountains. So, and the Pakistani Pathans have built Dubai, they've built the UAE. 70% of when you build hydro, 70% of the cost is labor. The rest is cement. You have gypsum, limestone, you have enough labor. You don't have to go anywhere. Start digging and build it. Your export bill will come down. And there's so much, let's look at what we've got, what God has given us. Get out of this that someone will come and help us. Take charge, become a captain of your business. Say, God has given us this fantastic country. Let's go and make, some, big thinking, big plans. And let's go do big things. And inshallah, it will happen.
I think extremely important message to recalibrate our thinking process and get outside the shackle of the typical mindset or the typical thinking that has held rather this region hostage. I'll just ask one last question, which is also sort of linked to a question asked by one of our participants, Hamza Hashmi, and something that I wanted to ask you myself as well, that how much of growth or the policy of a country or many countries is owed to women in leadership, and because we are seeing that how many countries they are doing rather well dealing with this pandemic, and there are obviously numerous papers, the world is writing about it, how the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, and many others, the Finnish Prime Minister, Angela Merkel, many have done. So I would like your comment on this, and in addition to this, what our participant is asking as to the growth in Bangladesh and also within your organization, how much of that is dependent on women working, and what's the sort of ratio of your workforce, both in the workforce as well as the executive sort of leadership level, the contribution of women. So what are the ratios like?
After your answer, I will ask few members who want to ask questions from you directly. Please, Naved sir.
Okay, so the first thing is that when I go out and I introduce my wife to people, so her name is Sania. So I tell them that Sania is my husband because she wears the pants in the house, and I'm very scared of her. So, and I'm scared of most women, but because that's something my father sort of taught me. He said, don't be scared of anything, but be a little scared of your wife. The second thing is that in Bangladesh, the government, I think, women play a fantastic role where I'm just trying to remember that what's the, I mean, in the garment industry, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 69% or something are women. And what actually happened was that when you give these women the purse strings, so they're very good at, I mean, they worry about their children more than the men. And they sort of make sure that the kids get well educated, they look after their health. And the women become very dynamic because now, you know, the purse strings are in their hands. So it's very important to, and they're a very large part of the population, and they have a very big impact on the future population. So the first thing I would say is that, you know, somehow the women should get the purse strings in Pakistan, where they start controlling money of families and so on, apart from the men, but the women should have an equal say. The other thing is that, you know, as you increase the literacy of the women, you're also increasing it automatically of the men, because they love to educate the children. And then, you know, when the women work, like in Bangladesh, I've actually seen it. When I came here in '94, you know, they used to look very sad. Now, you know, when I go to a garment factory, I'm talking about, the next thing I'll do is talk about at the higher level. So now, you know, they wear makeup, and it makes me so happy because I find them smiling and self-confident, you know, because over a period, they've started earning, they're coming out. And what I try to do is to, you know, share with them how important the work is that they're doing. That you know, they may not be able to travel, but we show them films, we hold classes for them and give them certificates of attending, you know, they attend a training course, then they go tell the husband, see, I've got this certificate, you know, I'm pretty smart. So that's on one side. The other side is that when they work for me, I don't differentiate. So I'm equally demanding, whether there's a women manager or a, you know, it depends on the job. And I find that that, you know, they perform equal. I mean, if you have a good man and a stupid woman, then the man will succeed. If you have a stupid man and a good smart woman, then the woman will succeed. So we should not really, if you come to Bangladesh, if I'm not mistaken, the Prime Minister is definitely a woman. I think the Speaker of the Parliament is a woman, and the captain of the garment business in Bangladesh, which is called BGMA, she's a lady. So predominantly in all I think the first person who climbed the Everest from Bangladesh is also a lady. So my thing is that, you know, your New Zealand president, so women can go, women should go, and there should be an equal opportunity and equal, I mean, it should be on merit. But definitely, as you build up your literacy for women and you bring them into the workforce, you're actually doing a big favor to yourself, and you'll find that the whole population will start to come up, because women are the ones who influence the kids the most. You know, they say that maa ke paon ke niche jannat hai. I sincerely believe in that.
Thank you, Naved sir. Absolutely a pleasure to sort of have a discussion with you. Azfar, I'll just hand over to you now to sort of ask participants.
Mr. Hassan Bilgrami from Corporate Pakistan Group want to ask one question. Mr. Hassan Bilgrami, please. He's a founding member of, founding president of Bank Islami Pakistan.
So that was my past. Naved sir, I wanted to ask that how much of the economic success in Bangladesh can be attributed to the transition to democracy and perhaps better economic management? So this was one, and if you allow me, a related question is that what, in your opinion, is the reason that in Pakistan we have a decent population, we have probably an older and more mature pharmaceutical industry, but we have been not able to do as better internationally as Bangladesh and definitely India has done. So where we are lacking, in your opinion?
I think, the things which I spoke about earlier, that firstly, research and development and focus on product, and then the ability of an entrepreneur to take a risk. Because sometimes, unless you take a risk, when there are a lot of risks which we take where we lose a lot of money. So in my lifetime, I've lost lots of money. But unless you take those risks and you have self-confidence, take this drug right now. Okay, so I spoke to my Pakistani friends, and my initial impression was that why did we make it and you didn't make it, Remdesivir. So I thought that we are an LDC, and when you are an LDC, then you can actually make anything you want and the patent doesn't apply. But I was surprised to find that under the WTO rules, when you have a pandemic, then patents don't apply and there's no such thing as piracy. So why did the Pakistani pharmaceutical companies have to go to get a license from America when they could have? What did we do? We reversed engineered it and made it, and we started selling it. You could have done the same. Why you didn't do it, I'm at a loss. Because you could have saved a lot of lives. And in fact, in Pakistan, because we are very dependent on the raw material, but in India, I think there's a company called Hetero, which is trying to they're already developing some level of the backward linkage and material. So it's, right now when we are doing PPE, so we are taking a long vision. I'm not just looking at PPE as an opportunistic measure that right now there's a huge demand in the market, so I'll cash in. I'm looking at it that, okay, there is a huge demand. We've entered at the right time. But I'm taking a risk. I haven't spoken about it, but I'm actually chartering planes and bringing machines to Bangladesh. And if it doesn't work, it'll really hurt. But there is a risk involved because we'll do the backward linkage, the front end linkage, and we are going for the big game. So my answer to that is that, what I said was that follow Nike, just do it. Take the risk, don't be scared, and have a pioneering spirit. I hope that answers it.
Thank you. Tufail, please open the voice of Mr. Muqeemul Haq. Mr. Muqeemul Haq is Commercial Officer of PTCL, Pakistan Telecommunication.
Yes,
very insightful, and thank you very much for a lovely session. I just have one question. I think apart from economic policies, the education model of Bangladesh needs to be understood, because I think that is where you said women education was above 70%. Also in terms of the medium of education. So if you can just, walk us through the key features of education on how the government is supporting developing education on the skill development side. So what are those that are tagging along this economic development? Thank you very much.
Yeah. The first thing which I will say is that I think, if you look at between you and me, when I look at the Pakistani engineering universities, when I look at places like LUMS and IBA, so and I look at grammar school and HSN college and so on, I would say that the education level of Pakistan is much better than here. And Bangladesh has a lot to catch up. In terms of skills development, there are a lot of things which, I mean, keep in mind that you've made a nuclear bomb, you're making fighter aircraft, and you're also making submarines. So it's very far from where we are. But I cannot understand that why the private sector is not taking advantage of it. Because, you know, whenever I visit Pakistan and I meet the people, and I have Pakistanis working with me here, and, you know, they're amazing. So you have to have the leadership to take these guys and, you know, don't just rely on the government. For heaven's sake, governments don't build a country. It's your self-confidence. You have 200 and some million people. Those are the people who will build the country. The private leadership will build the country. If you just rely on Islamabad, you're not going to go very far. So in your own organization, you know, set up training, steel technology, send people out. You know, when I bought machines, what I did was that I sent 60 Bangladeshis because as part of my capital expense, I had put in training, because otherwise, you know, if I kept it separate, it would have cost too much. So right now, you know, there's a similar thing we're just about to do with our PPE. So it's your responsibility. Now, within Pakistan, definitely education is an issue. I mean, what the government has done here is that they've done a fantastic job in making it widespread. And as a result, you know, the literacy rate here has the literacy rate as opposed to Pakistan, which is 59%, is about 73%. And again, when you take literacy rate for the female literacy rate, from 46, it has gone to 70. But I think you also need to look at the fundamentals. Okay, Bangladesh, I mean, I think, you know, a country needs a vision, a family needs a vision, a company needs a vision, and that vision should be very clearly stated. So Bangladesh, I mean, in Pakistan, are we an ideological state or are we a secular state? Is Jinnah's vision still applicable? So Bangladesh is very clear, secular. But if you go to the mosques, they're full. A very strong Islamic thing, but absolutely secular. Zero tolerance for terrorism. And very sort of, what do you call it? You know, a much more tolerant society. Very few people, you know, who spend a lot of time saying, you know, self-righteous, we are the guys who are right. So what we need to do, in my view, and believe me, this is not my field, I should really not be talking about it, but I think, you know, we need to define, because, you know, sometimes I ask my kids that, you know, are we a ideological state or a secular state? And is, you know, we get confused with the vision which Jinnah stated and what we hear now. So make up your mind, fix a vision, have zero tolerance for, what do you call it, have zero tolerance for any kind of terrorism. Use these fantastic guys who are coming out of LUMS and your engineering colleges and working in the industry, make banking easy for them. Don't try to save your banks, make capital available, make working capital available, scale it. Don't leave it to 12 or 20 people and you keep hearing the same names. Let a new order come in and, you know, let's think of Pakistan as a startup. So let's forget what's happened in the rear view. Let's look at the windshield and say, okay, let's start again. And in my view, where it'll go is unbelievable with the resources we have, with the people that are there. I used to see people climbing on buses, traveling on roofs, and going and working 10 hours. I have an interest in a school in Pakistan where, in Korangi, we are educating kids. And I think, we wanted to do a course in English for the kids. And all the parents showed up. Okay, we also want to attend because these are, someone is a welder and someone is a painter. But there was such a fantastic desire for education. So what I feel is that we are selling ourselves short. Think big and act. And, finish your talk shows, waste of time. Let's start doing.
Thank you, Naved sir. I want to request Ayla for the word of thanks from our side.
Thank you, Azfar. Naved sir, thank you so much. It's been really sort of inspirational, and some of the things that we kind of sort of, some things we don't mindfully think of and some things we do, but yet again hearing it from somebody who practices it day in, day out. And I think you have given us some very good suggestions with regards to not watch too much TV and too much talk shows. And I think unnecessary debates, unnecessary or unhealthy debates, they don't really lead anywhere. And I think we all need to use our energies in a very productive manner. And that's a very clear message that we hear from you. And another thing that apart from many good things, many good lessons that you've shared with us, one of the key things that emerges out is to invest a lot in research and believe in our people, and of course believe in the potential, and we need to think big. And I think those are some of the key sort of areas that will, or key traits that will really help us in Pakistan as a country, South Asia as a region, to really unleash our potential. I would like to thank you for sparing your time. I know it is almost midnight in Bangladesh, in Dhaka. And thank you for sharing your valuable time with us. It's been very inspirational. And we look forward to hosting you in future again as well, and meeting you in person as well. These interesting times have given us this opportunity to meet virtually, and we are trying to make the best out of it, to make the most out of this, to stay connected and learn from colleagues, our seniors, friends from different parts of the world. And at the end of the day, I mean, yes, there are physical borders, but we mustn't have borders that are there in our minds. We need to sort of think in a very borderless manner and see how we can collaborate. And you've given us some very good food for thought, a lot of inspiration. And I'm sure a lot of people will be interested to discuss with you how there can be more future collaborations with your group perhaps. So Azfar, I would like to thank you, and you always take these initiatives, and the energy that you have is very unmatchable. So kudos to you and everyone who's been, and all the team that has been there to give us the help in technology and everything else that's been part of the planning. And with that, I would like to close the session and thank everyone and wish you all a good rest. Take care. Thank you.
We will upload the video of today's conversation by tomorrow evening on YouTube. And this is Nutshell Conference's YouTube channel. And all of you are requested to visit our YouTube channel for the excellent talks and conversations. The yesterday's dialogue already uploaded in the evening, and this one will be uploaded tomorrow evening. So this will go viral for the masses. And right now, the Facebook live coverage is still there. Nutshell Conferences page, you will visit and the whole video is there. Thank you, Naved Saab, again, and we will love to host you in Pakistan as well. And sometime we will visit Dhaka to meet you and to all our
I would love to welcome you and all your members, anyone who travels to Dhaka. Please let me know, and I would like to host them. And I would also like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to have an exchange of frank, to have a frank conversation with, all your leadership in Pakistan, who I have great admiration for. And may God bless Pakistan and may God bless Bangladesh. Thank you very much.
We are also available here to facilitate you if any facilitation you required from here in Pakistan. Our group members, our friends are here. So we are just one call away from you. Thank you.
That's very, very, very kind of you. Thank you again.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned. Thanks to everyone.